Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to this presentation, the first international conference on science, engineering, and technology. My name is Rirahai Juniati, and today I would like to present the article entitled The Implementation of the Authority Provincial Education Department in Developing the Quality of Higher Education in Sinjai Regency. But before, I would like to introduce my team. They are Jamaluddin, Umar Chongge, Baharuddin, Muhammad Takdir, Mursak, and Kiki Rasmalasani. Okay, we move to the introduction. National education aims to develop the potential of learners to become human beings who believe and fear God Almighty, noble character, healthy, knowledgeable, capable, creative, independent, and become democratic and responsible citizens. Based on the function and objectives of national education, it's clear that education at every level, including in schools, must be organized systematically to achieve these goals. Based on Mandela M 2015, consider education as the most powerful weapon that can be used to change the world, even a fundamental need for the realization of rights for all citizens to be a solution to all aspects of the need. Next is about in Sinjai Regency, in the implementation of development of the quality of high secondary education itself has not seen the results of the provincial government, especially the South Sulawesi Provincial, the Education Department in the equalization of secondary education service that still have good quality. So, this study aims to describe the implementation of the authority of the Education Department of South Sulawesi Province in terms of developing the quality of secondary education equivalent in Sinjai Regency. It was expected that this research became a forum for all parties, both from academics and others, who want to conduct research related to the implementation of the authority of the Education Department in the development of the quality of higher education. Next, the theoretical framework. Implementation of authority. Bayani and Benghu 2018, understanding what happens after a program was declared valid or formulated is the focus on policy implementation attention. For example, events and activities arising after the ratification of state policy guidelines that include both efforts to administer it and to cause real consequence or impact on society or events. Next, standardization and quality assurance of education. There are four aspects of successful implementation of authority based on Cobb et al. 2014, namely communication, resources, disposition, and bureaucratic structure. Communication, effective implementation will be implemented if the makers know what they will do. And resources. Resources are positioned as inputs in the organization as a system that has economic and technological implications. And about the disposition. Dispositions are among the factors that have important consequences for effective policy implementation. And the last is bureaucratic structure. Bureaucracy is one of the most frequent institutions, even as a whole, to be the executor or activity. Next is research method. This research used the qualitative research method. These researchers got the data where they remain critical of the data obtained. Besides, the use of the qualitative approach as a way for writers to keep thinking inductively, namely the researchers process various facts or social phenomena through observation in the field, then analyze them, and then theoretically based on what is observed. It based on Creswell and Clark 2014. The location placed the Education Department of South Sulawesi, Branch of Education Department Region 3, SMA Negeri 1 and SMK Negeri 1 Sinjai Regency, and Board Education of Sinjai Regency. This research was conducted in 2020. Data collection techniques systematically through observation, interviews, and documentation. Then, data management and analysis were carried out through data reduction, data presentation, and conclusion. The next is about results and discussion. And the result is communication. The results of the research indicate that communication occurred between the Education Department of South Sulawesi, branch of the Education Department Region 3, Bone and Sinjai Regency, or schools in the branch of Education Department of Region 3 with the Education Council of Sinjai Regency, and vice versa, the Board of Education to communicate the Education Department of South Sulawesi Province to lowest hierarchy. The purpose to create a relationship in terms of implementation, supervision, and development of quality education in Sinjai Regency can be realized. Remember, the Board of Education of Sinjai Regency is responsible also for education in Sinjai Regency. And the next result is resource. The result of the study indicates that the number of employees or staff in the Education Department of South Sulawesi can be said very much, and this was feasible considering the Education Department of South Sulawesi have to carry out the implementation of its authority to the maximum and require a lot of manpower to do. It can be seen in the following table: the number of employees of the Department of Education of South Sulawesi Province. You can see that employees of females are 88,629 and the male employees 7,221. And the next result is disposition. Two things were analyzed from indicator disposition, namely the appointment of bureaucrats and incentives. In terms of appointment and selection of staff employees for positions in the Provincial Education Department was an authority from the provincial government of South Sulawesi, namely the full authority of the government of South Sulawesi. And about the provision of incentives on educator teachers, that alone periodically was one way that has done, where the Education Department of South Sulawesi Province has a view when the teachers get a loan periodically will hopefully add to the better performance and innovation in learning, so that the goal of the Authority of Education Department of South Sulawesi Province was to develop the quality of education was realized. And the last result is bureaucratic structure. About bureaucratic structure, the results show that division of tasks or responsibility was deferred to the Education Department of South Sulawesi Province as the holder of the highest responsibility. And the last is about the conclusion. The conclusion, it can be concluded through four indicators in the implementation, which consist of communication, resources, disposition, and also bureaucracy structure. For the communication indicator implementation has been running effectively, seen from how the flow of communication which was built in the discharge of its authority both internally and externally, and about the four research indicators where the Education Department in carry out its authority sees from two substantial resources, namely human resource and also financial resource. Next, for indicator of disposition has two substantial in carry out the implementation of authority, namely the appointment of bureaucrats and also incentives, which is in the substantial apportionment of bureaucrats of the Department of Education of South Sulawesi Province. And the last indicator was bureaucratic structure has two substantial in it, namely fragmentation with SOP, wherein fragmentation, the division of duties, and responsibilities is suspended to the Department of Education of South Sulawesi Province, the highest responsibility holder. I think it's enough from our team. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.